Hello and welcome to this Thought for the Day from the Chapel's Royal, Her Majesty's Palace and Fortress, the Tower of London. Greetings and good health to you wherever you are. Today is Tuesday, the 16th of November, 2021. I'm talking to you 5 days after the 11th of November and 2 days after Sunday, the 14th of November, the nearest Sunday to the 11th, when we and many others observed Remembrance Day. There are several texts which are rightly used year after year on Remembrance Day, and one phrase which at first sight appears to sum up the whole object of the exercise is "lest we forget." Lest we forget. Lest here means so that we should not forget. That idea is fundamental to all of the events surrounding remembrance, from poppy wearing to wreath laying, from prayer saying to hymn singing. But I think you could reasonably argue that whilst lest we forget is a necessary starting point for remembrance events, it's not in itself sufficient. Simply remembering that millions of people have perished or been bereaved or been mutilated by war would be on its own a somewhat sterile exercise. The point is, it should make a difference to how we lead our lives today. Another event, Holocaust Memorial Day, has as its purpose not simply to remind people about something dreadful that happened in the past, the Holocaust, but to inspire us all to join in saying, never again. The philosopher George Santayana famously said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." That starts with a negative, those who cannot remember the past. How might we recast it to start with a positive statement? How would it go? Those who can remember the past, what exactly? Those who remember the past are guaranteed not to repeat it? I hardly think so. Those who remember the past have at least the possibility of not repeating it. That's getting closer. How about introducing a little moral judgment into what can otherwise sound like a dry academic formula? Those who remember the past have no excuse for repeating it. Those who remember the past have a moral duty not to repeat it. That surely is getting us closer to where we should be. In personal relationships, we sometimes hear the phrase, forgive and forget. It's a neat formulation, 2 words beginning with the same 3 letters, powerfully alliterative. We tend to use it when people feel wronged by others. Forgiveness is at the heart of Christianity. We should certainly prize forgiveness over grudge-bearing, which can be so corrosive of relations between individuals, groups, societies, and even nations. But I have a problem with the phrase forgive and forget. It takes me back to George Santayana. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. If I literally cannot anymore remember the offence which affected me so badly in the past, or probably more importantly, if I myself forget the offence that I caused to another, how can I guard against repeating the episode? I may forgive a slight against me, but if it is to take its place in the catalogue of life events on which I draw when framing my own future conduct, then surely I need to remember it. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, or to be more faithful to our Lord's original words as reported in the Gospels, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Trespasses or debts here refer especially to obligations that we've incurred with others for wrongs that we've done to them. We're asking God to clear our moral debts. But our Lord did not insert into his great prayer the idea that we should ask God to forget our offences. God sees all and remembers all. That's what makes God's forgiveness so powerful, that it is granted to us in full and eternal knowledge of our shortcomings and wrongdoings. In fact, one could say that remembering is an essential part of forgiving. If I, as a person, or we as a group, have suffered a great wrong, we may opt to forgive, but we can only do so in continuing recollection of what it is that we are forgiving. So perhaps we should be recasting the phrase forgive and forget into forgive but remember. Remember not in order to bear a grudge or to encourage a feud. Remember in order to avoid making the same mistakes yourself in the future. Think of the lost generation of the First World War. Think of the millions who perished in the Second World War. Think of those who've been killed, bereaved, or permanently disabled in so many other conflicts. But above all, perhaps, the message to us is not just to think of them, to remember them, not to forget them. It is to guide our own conduct in the future. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Never again.